we still have J.A. Rogers books. You know, they wouldn't publish his books in several publishing companies. So he got them published in Cleveland, Ohio, and his family kept the rights of the publication. So his books are here forever, as long as somebody along those lines are still alive. And Dr. Yakanan kept his books in his hands until he turned them over to Black Classic Press, which means there will be classics. But a lot of books, suddenly, they're not there. A book I wanted you all to have. The Mysticism of Sound, the Sufi booklet, written by Hazrat Hayat Khan, which is no longer available. And his son published a book in '71 titled Towards the One. And he left it out 2 years, and he took it off the market because he extended an invitation to those that were destined for the Sufi path and weren't conscious of it. And masters will do that. They'll put a book out there and leave it for a minute, then they'll yank it back off. But if I can get a copy of it somewhere, I'll get it Xerox so it can be made available. It's an excellent book. In that particular booklet, you can feel and experience supreme consciousness. It affects your eyes while you're reading it. It's very powerful.
Would it be in a very good university library?
If that particular library dealt with world philosophies and world religions, it might be. There is a copy of it in the Cleveland Library on the second floor, one of the best research libraries in America. That's probably the only thing I would brag about in Cleveland. They've got over 800 volumes of Sumerian history, and very few black men have even dealt with Sumerian history. It's one of those segments of lost history. In fact, I'm not even sure who the Sumerians were. They may have been the ones that are referred to as the Hyksos. I don't know. What time is it? So 5. Okay, you want to get a little box here and go around and beg for me, Robert? It is 6 o'clock? 5 after. I'll wait a few more minutes. Maybe
They'll trickle in.
Yeah.
Hard to get you to 5.
Is Isaac coming? Are you're Isaac's wife, aren't you? Yeah. You're not my, oh, excuse me. Okay. I'm anxious to hear.
As far as I know, he's coming.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Did anybody fetch the chalk?
Yeah, it's on the table.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good. How many of you wonderful people brought your Bibles? Your Holios Biblis? Bits and pieces here. I'm going to give a little bit more information about the various personalities of each sign, so you'll get a little more input. But my intention is to give you the underlying factors of each sign that are relevant to the scriptures and to your spiritual nature, and allow you to, on your own accord, out of curiosity, read more about your own sign first, then about your husband or your wife, and then your children. It helps to heighten your interest in yourself and the development of it. And the intent here is to grab as much of the positive aspects of who you are, relinquishing your hold on the problematic side. We expect that to be erased as you develop. The more strength you gain, the less of a pull on your proclivities, the problem side you'll have. And keeping in mind that the big thing is to change habits, you change rhythm. That's the big secret of the mystic. Well, how they were able, the brother and I were talking, to master the passions is to change your inner rhythm and not fight your passions. The old school of those in the monasteries and in the mountains without knowledge were virtually destroying their own vehicles by physical abusing themselves in the name of the Lord. You know, the Trappists who flog themselves. In the abbeys, the high priesthood sat back in their little shrouds and meditated while the other dummies are in there beating themselves to death. You know, so, which has been a big problem, you know, with spirituality. Those that were in charge of it kept the secret so long and gave to the masses, and even those that came out of the bigger bodies of population in each city, country, culture, gave them just the rudiments, the moralities of good and bad, and left them with no techniques other than beg or prayers. The unfortunate aspect of our culture here in America is that we have yet in the Western Hemisphere to develop a mystical culture. We're late in that area. You wonder why we don't have any remarkable places where all of us can go, where there's some group or great masters in America that are African descent. It's because we're late in that area. There are black men on this planet, though, that are raised up to several levels of God, but they're not in America. If they are, I don't know anything about them. But they certainly are on the planet. Well, I guess we'll get started and let those that are latecomers come. We're going to be talking about Gemini today, the third constellation. Oh, the reason that this point here is not 0 degrees is because this is not a zodiac. This is a astronomical constellation chart. There's a difference in positioning. Remembering that the astrologer uses an imaginary concept of this invisible belt of 12 signs as if it were orbiting around the planet, when actually it is not. We are orbiting around the sun, and the constellations are orbiting around the sun, but not in the position that the two systems, the heliocentric, which means sun-centered, and the geocentric, which means earth-centered. That's why you have different dates for each sign. If you're born on the 21st, and some astrologers use the geocentric system, they'll say the 22nd. It's a matter of sidereal days and difference of chart. I'm not trying to jump in there. First thing I'll do is give you first level, so that astrology and spirituality and self-knowledge collaborate. Once you get that, then you go to figuring out how to chart. That's, you know, why chart something that you don't understand? You know, it didn't make any sense to me. Why? There was always these introductory levels of astrological charting. Johnson Bay in Cleveland, and the Moorish American Institute did the same thing. This book here is several kinds of books. And one of them that it is a kind of book of is an astrology book that tells you about your nature, again, your human and mental and spiritual nature. And believe me, that is the key, okay? The more you understand about yourself as a physical being, mental being, and spiritual being, the sooner you're going to master yourself. The sooner you're going to gain access to the powers, plural, that you already have. So that you don't have to ask God for something that he's already given you. If the good reverend, notice I said good reverend this time? You're right. If he would just tell his folks that they already have most of what they are praying for, and then go about the business of illustrating and demonstrating how to bring it out, we would have a great spiritual family in this country to work with. But unfortunately, he's got to be re-educated too. Okay, who do you think is Gemini in the Bible? One of you brilliant prophetic personalities, drop it on me. And it's interesting because at the time I was milling through the Bible, I didn't know who it was either. But if you work, here's a point I'm making. If you work with as many tools at your disposal and your spirit will go on educating you. That's important. The reason I keep saying your real teacher is inside. Let no man claim himself to be your teacher. The real teacher, the real God that you're looking for is sitting right here in the audience. Okay, in each and every one of you. That's the one you look for. Yeah, okay, brother.
I just have to guess. Is it Adam and Eve?
Excellent guess. I know that you know. Do you know that you know? It's an old parable. Yes, it is. It's Adam and Eve. And the first point we want to deal with, oh, I forgot to do this last week, too. I should have been illustrating these last week. Those are the planets. Can you see them from back there? Hey, sugar.
Step, go back.
Oh, you see? Okay.
Step back.
All right, okay. Can you all see them back there? We're up here on the top of the head with Mercury. That's where we are now. But remembering the planets' effect and influence, they don't govern or rule us. We're not mastered by planets. Unless you are underdeveloped, as the other animal forms of life are underdeveloped, they must then be moved by the powers of energies coming from exterior, from outside, as cattle move in herds. And the remarkable behavior of the ant is something to see. You talk about divine order. The ants got it hooked up. If we could put it together like the ants got it, oh, we'd be something. But I think we would also be bored to death, you know. But therein one sees outstanding order. Also the spider. I had the wonderful opportunity to see a spider weaving her web. The spider be busy. You talk about who knows geometry. The spider knows. Really remarkable. If you just get that ever out in the forest, you know, get the opportunity to see a spider weaving the web of the universe. It is as geometric and as zodiacal as anything men has ever drawn. It's really something to see. Okay, there I go. We're dealing with my ascendant. How many Geminis you got in here? Raise your hand. I don't think we come. Y'all, I hope y'all ain't all earth signs. I'm supposed to be drawing fire and air in here. Well, we're all affected by all 12 signs. The sun sign position is essentially the dominant one of your time of birth, but you also have an ascendant. That's where your personality is formed, wherever your first house is. Then, of course, we are affected dramatically by the moon. Not just women, all of us are affected by the watery influence of the moon. Our emotional nature is a part of the influence of that dynamic planet. Okay, let me get here right to the book here. Who has their Bible open and turn to chapter 1? Some really interesting reading here. When you get these keys, you know, then the Bible starts to make sense, and you really appreciate the scriptures. But that doesn't necessarily make you appreciate Reverend Biscuit too much, because Reverend Biscuit seems like he didn't share this knowledge with black folks. But I gather and venture to say this level of knowledge he did not and still does not have. Okay. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Who wants to read that for us?
And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth."
Okay, hold it right there. Now, look at this in terms of geometric symbology. That's a glyphic of Gemini. Two rays of energy coming from the sun to the earth, the polarity of positive and negative. But it is also the polarity of higher and lower of self, the higher self and the lower self. In the Egyptian symbology of astrology, in fact, I started to buy this one booklet, but I want them to get it and have it on their shelves. The depiction of a male and female goddess are presented. In the European glyphs, wouldn't you believe it, two men, one gay and one straight, I guess, I don't know. But the positive and negative concept then is clothed in that kind of depiction of two men and two women. The important point with that particular symbology is to clearly understand we are male and female. Principle. That does not make the brother's hips switch because he has female gender. And it does not make the sister ball up a fist and strut up down the street looking somebody sock in the mouth. Okay, my brother.
I was checking out Prince the other day. They changed his name to that.
To what?
To the male and female symbol.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. That symbol.
Yeah, briefly, the manifestation of male and female at its highest point is that of the androgynous being. The concept hermaphrodite represents Hermes and Isis, or Osset, as the brothers have pointed out. It is godhood that is male and female. It is love and wisdom are the principles. Love does bring out the feminine quality in the male, as wisdom brings out the strength and sternness in the female. But if it's down here in lower Egypt, the brother and the sister will have some problems. That's chemistry. And it seems to be an overload of one factor in the male body and overload one factor in the female body.
Excuse me, I have a question in reference to Lower Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
In the Taoism, they speak of ejaculation.
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect being in Lower Egypt? If you were to have an ejaculation, is that positive?
An ejaculation or ejaculation?
Ejaculation, that's where.
Ejaculation is to draw in.
Right.
Okay.
That's,
I don't know. I won't comment on that. I don't know. In fact, it'll be off my subject here. I don't want to get too far off. I want to try to get some information in this thing. Okay. Then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Image is two factors, design and appearance. The European school in this metaphysical new age are saying that God does not have a physical image. And that is wrong. Jesus didn't come down here looking like a puff of smoke. And his mother wasn't a puff of smoke. And they should explain that. The likeness concept is that of the same nature as God has. That's what the word likeness means. Your nature is like God's nature. In this chapter, that is stated almost clearly until you start thinking about Adam somewhere lost instead of yourself. We are still the atom and the principle of male and female, as we'll see here. And let them rule. Major key about your ethnocentric name. Okay, read the rest of that, my sister.
Okay, starting with 27 or?
No, where you left off. Remember where you left off?
I finished 26, so should I go on?
Well, did you go all the way through to creeping things that creep on the earth?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the word here, rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the sky, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, has nothing to do with fishes, cattle, and the sea. Fish and cattle are ideas. That's your mind. That's where you are supposed to rule. With and in your own mind. If you master your mind, you will master the cattle, the fish, and the crazy Negroes as well, and we'll be able to help them. And over all the earth, that is your physical body, that is your earth. And if you don't get this spirit, that's what you will inherit. It's just your body and not your godhood. In the Beatitudes, if you've wondered what that little verse means that seemed to confuse good Christians, the poor in spirit shall inherit the earth. That's all they're going to inherit. The rich in spirit shall become God, if you want to know the difference in that reference there. Poverty, poor, does not get it up there. That don't get you up there. Poor does not mean humble. Okay? I want you to understand that. P-O-O-R is a mistake. Don't buy that one. Buy R-I-C-H. You're, spiritually speaking, you're already rich and do not know it. That's the major key. That's also mentioned in Revelation. Okay, read verse 27.
So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them.
Are y'all listening? All right. All right. Now, this establishes the fact of G-O-D. If I need to reinsert that into consciousness. What I'm saying is, this is no myth. This isn't a belief. This is a spiritual, biological, and energy fact. You are God. If you don't remember nothing else I say, please don't forget that. Okay. In fact, if you hear it enough times, your spirit won't let you forget it. And it's very important. So, here, God creates both male and female. Okay. This is before you get to Eve, and actually this is before you get to Adam. There's no Adam mentioned in that verse. First of all, this book is what's called labial history. That there's nothing complete in it. It doesn't have a once upon a time and they all lived happily ever after. There's no full story about anybody's life. There are great names of so-called men and women mentioned, and that's all. See? So you know you don't have a complete history of anything except the evolution of the soul. Finishes up in Revelations as Almighty God. That's the next step up from G-O-D. When you get to G-O-D, then you go up to Almighty G-O-D. Okay. You got a question, my brother?
Yeah, the term you use, labial.
Yes.
Can you spell that?
Labial?
Yes.
And it's pretty much self-defined, that it's only in reference like that of labeling or making general references to a synopsis of something, a brief statement about something. But in that synopsis or brief statement is a key in terms of the person's name or the place that the event transpired in, or the mentioning of certain concepts that slip past the ordinary reader, like the word pineal and pinuil. If you look in that chapter of Genesis 29, you will see the word pinuil spelled two different ways. It looks like the lexicographer made a mistake, because he's talking about two different concepts. Okay, that's a part of labial writing. Okay, I don't want to drag on here. Verse 28, and God blessed them, and God said to them, not Adam, there's no them in Adam yet. Okay. Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and rule, again, over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air. Fish of the sea are where? Solar plexus. That's where your water, feeling, emotional nature is in your solar plexus. The birds of the air are where? All right. Thank you. That's this, for those who have not seen this before. Womb, man, and man. M, master. A, able. N, noble. That's what you're becoming. You got to do that before you get G-O-D. Okay. So you're about the business of mastering your thinking. And the more energy you get, keeping this in mind, the faster your thoughts go out there and do something. So when you get to this point of metaphysically transforming your mind, to put on the mind of God, the mind of Christ, same concept, understand that when you say a thing, think a thing, imagine a thing, something is going to happen. So you don't have to say the next day, I knew that was going to happen. I mean, that's about your car. When you said that old raggedy thing, you're going to get this old raggedy car. Your thought goes out and hits your car. Okay? Now that's serious. About your children. Don't call them ugly. Don't call them stupid. Don't, all that stuff. Throw that away. Okay? That there is no negativity in the mind of Christ. There's no negativity in the mind of God. There's only truth. The truth is, you are perfect right now and don't know it. Be ye perfect, even as our Heavenly Father is perfect. You can't put perfect together. You can't divide perfect. Perfect doesn't die. Okay. All right. Have I got a microphone? Sounds like I got a microphone. Okay. Mercury is the planet of Gemini. And Mercury comes from the Greco-Latin word merx, which does not mean thought, mind, it means merchandise. I'll get back to that, but in other classical texts, the reference of Mercury is to that of mind. The gland that it affects is at the top of the head. The epiphysis gland, though this particular book and author makes reference to it being the pineal gland, the pineal gland, but it really affects the epiphysis gland, which is up at the top of your head inside. Okay, that's what we were working on before. Okay, thank you. I thought I had it on. It sounded like I had on the mic. Oh, okay. Mercury governs, again, remember influence, not rulership. The hands, the brain faculties of communication, speech, writing, and thinking. This is Gemini's astrological motto. Did any Geminis come in? Venus, aren't you Gemini? No, okay. How about you, little girl? No Geminis in here. That's amazing. There should be 5 or 6 of y'all sitting up in here. Okay.